Hello and welcome back to Would You Rather. It's sort of Would You Rather Resurrections. This week we are going to be talking to Tye Moore about two films, Matrix Resurrection and Last Night in Soho. We are back, better than ever. You better be with us. Please click that thing and make it happen. Thank you. We're talking about an Edgar Wright film, and I have my Shaun of the Dead guy, my Sean, who's always with me. He's always in the background of all of our videos. So, but before we get into that, let's talk about you. Let's talk about Curly and Nerdy and what you're doing. I looked through the Instagram page, and there's so many different things that you do.
Curly and Nerdy was actually started as a podcast, or supposed to be a podcast. And then it just wasn't going. So it turned into kind of pushing comic book characters, especially ones you didn't know of, pushing Black characters. So it started from there, and then just supporting Black businesses, Black movies, just all over the board, I guess.
Well, I'm so curious because given the anime angle, okay, so Matrix Resurrections, I totally get it. Last Night in Soho, I was just curious, like why you selected that given, you know, kind of your other interests, or maybe it's just completely unrelated, but I'm just curious why you picked that movie.
Normally I stay away from horror. I am a scaredy cat. I actually watched it last night so I wouldn't like get my details mixed up. So I actually did. I did have to turn on all the lights, but I did like it.
Did it scare you? Did you have nightmares?
I didn't have nightmares. I was just a little more creeped out, I guess, than anything. But no nightmares.
Okay, so I'm gonna be the wet towel on this one because I have to say I did not like this. I loved it the first hour. I was riveted. And then I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna be on this Would You Rather talking about this movie. And I thought, you know what? If Hallmark, Lifetime, and Chiller Channels had a threesome and a baby came out, I feel like it would be this movie. And I felt like this movie could not figure out if it was, you know, at the end, it was almost like a Law and Order episode, the way they so neatly tied it up.
That was interesting. That was interesting that they tied it up with the reality.
With a bow.
With Diana Rigg of actually being the killer and them being buried.
I love that part.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming.
I think that's what made it, like the twist of it was what made it for me. Because I was like, oh, I just knew for sure. And I was like, oh, okay. So this was really all in her mind that this lady was living downstairs.
Great. I was so riveted the first 40 minutes and I thought it was so beautifully shot. And just with the reflections in the mirror. And I just love, and the actors, of course, are so good. I mean, Mayhem from Attack the Block coming back as literally the anti-Mayhem. You know, he was like the grounding force of this movie. And I just thought that that was so amazing. I loved that. And I loved all the acting. I loved all of it. Joe, I don't know. I saw the lady downstairs. I was like, okay, who is she? She's clearly so, I don't know. It just, to me, was so over the top. Like
that lady downstairs is the great Diana Rigg, by the way.
Yes, she is. She was great. And I so love that there's someone other than Helen Mirren playing the old lady character.
Older British women, right? There is another one, right? And Judi Dench. Right. And Dame Judi Dench, right? Let's talk for a minute about Matrix Resurrections. Still kept wondering why Fishburne wasn't there. You know,
me too. That was the biggest thing for me.
You took it away from me.
Yeah. I just lost interest. I lost interest.
But Tye, you picked this film. What drew you to it? What'd you like about it?
I can't say that I like this one.
But you picked it. Why did you pick it? Because it's in the now?
More so.
Okay, so the whole Morpheus thing really, really threw me off. Neil Patrick Harris being shoved into the movie, I was like, what is happening?
As the evil mastermind.
I mean, it just kind of really took me. Some things you just want someone who is less of a persona as himself in a movie because it's just too hard to overcome. It was like when Brad Pitt wandered into 12 Years a Slave. And I was just kind of like, you have this mesmerizing movie that basically transports you to, and Brad Pitt, really, you couldn't get someone really like,
Anyway.
you know, I mean, like, it was like that, only he was in almost every frame of the movie. It really was, wow. That was wow. Yeah.
Right, so I think we have a verdict on Matrix Resurrection, not our favorite flick. Why don't we get to some of our articles, Caroline? And the metaverse. Oh, this is about
it's exactly, I mean, when you watch The Matrix, and this is the other reason why The Matrix, I feel like now is a theme. Exactly what you said, Tye. Let's just do something new. It's we're already living it. Everybody's talking about it. The metaverse is literally the Matrix. And so let's just be done with it. I didn't have to stretch far and wide to find something in the news that ties into this movie. And so The Matrix also feels, you know, in some ways it's more relevant because it's like a foreshadowing, but in some ways it's less relevant because we don't have to watch a movie to experience it. We can just read the business news almost, right?
Yeah. Let's go to your next article, Caroline.
My next article is both a Florida story and last night in Soho. Okay, you think their house was haunted? So this is the New York Times expose on the Surfside condos, which of course is a tragic story of the condo that collapsed in Miami. Yeah. And they just do an expose around how condo regulations in general in Florida, surprise, surprise, are pretty lax. Drive-by inspections and, you know, a lot of passing the buck. And it just, so a Florida story. So Tye, welcome to Would You Rather. I'm always giving a Florida story because I'm here in the land of Florida man, which is a thing for a reason. And so, you know, this is just one of those stories.
I love how you tied in, you know, very morbidly, a collapsed condo with the ghosts of a burning building in Soho. Cool. And you've also led us into another thing that we always do on Would You Rather. Are there any Black people in these movies, right? So one night in Soho, last night in Soho. Has your boy Mayhem, who you love. I love that you still remember him from Attack the Block. Have you seen that movie, Tye? Have you ever seen Attack the Block?
I don't think I have. It's been recommended to me plenty of times. I just don't think I've sat down. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch that movie, and it just doesn't happen. So,
oh my gosh, you must.
Yeah.
You must.
Really need to watch it, and then watch our episode where we talk about it with Melody, because it's really fun.
Well, I love Mayhem because his smile is very distinct. And I could tell from his face, you know, I was like, I know this person, but he's a kid in Attack the Block.
Yeah, he's like he's a little
kid, but his face is so, you know, so obviously it was very mature. And then when I realized, oh my gosh, he played Mayhem. And he literally, this was another thing about Last Night in Soho that drove me crazy. There was a lot that this movie had to do. They're not going to give him any backstory, but literally he was just like the Grecian column, like the load-bearing column holding up the house. You know, like he didn't really have anything else except that he's like, I'm a nice guy and I
love her.
Exactly.
Weren't you just waiting for him to be the evil pimp of today, though? Like
I was thinking was going to happen,
and I was like so mad. I was preparing to be so upset about that, and then it didn't happen. And he was just a nice kid who got stabbed in the stomach.
It was just kind of like, so you're just, I don't know. I felt like he was looking for a project to save because I'm like, why would you keep chasing her after all these little crazy moments? Then you got stabbed trying to help her. And you're now at her fashion show, the runway, and you're up there clapping like all happy. And I was like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He has no backstory. He's literally like the supportive wife. I mean, you know, all those characters from years and years ago. But yeah, but that's why he's anti-mayhem. He's like come full circle.
He's come full circle.
I will say, you know, as somebody who watches Black people in horror movies for all of my life, right? We have come a long way that, you know, you can just be the supportive friend, right? You know, because the Black friend always died, right? I mean, he almost died in this movie. You know, he's the love interest of a white gal, and it's just that just happens to be it. And he's a nice guy. It's amazing. It's just a different world, right? That's why I was about to be so angry if he's an evil pimp today. I was like, wait, come on, we've come so far, Edgar. Don't take us back. And he didn't.
If we're talking about, you know, black, are there any black actors? Are there any Asian actors?
Well, I was about to go there.
It's very easy, obviously, in Matrix Resurrection. Although this is how much this movie kind of like left the ether of my mind. When I saw something about Priyanka Chopra, and she mentioned being in Matrix Resurrections, and I was like, who was she? I mean, I couldn't even, and then I was, as I was reviewing it, I was like, wait, Jada Pinkett Smith is in it, you know, like
and the makeup was rough. That was I mean, I just find Jada like such an effervescent person and wonderful to look at. I mean, I think she's beautiful, but I mean, she's just an interesting screen character. Just putting her in all that haggy ass, you know, like sort of why don't you just make Jada to give her some gray hair? And then it's Jada. But they had to do the whole Hobbit look. And I was, anyway, another disappointment in that movie. But yes, it did indeed have some Asians who were prominent characters. So
big characters. Yeah.
Bully for Matrix on that. Seeing the future and there are Black and Asian people is still enjoyable to me. Like I don't get over that we now have a future that has Blacks and Asians, because for a long time there the future didn't have anybody who wasn't white, you know. The Bechdel rating. Do two women in the movies have a conversation that is not about a man? Are they fully drawn characters?
Well, one could argue that Last Night in Soho is it's all about the men. I mean, in a way, because it's the drive behind both of the characters in a bad way, and the only way, really, because even the fashion, like the music, it's all subservient to the audience. So it was just a little bit too packagey for me, but I keep saying that I did love how it was shot.
I guess the young gal in reality and her grandmother have conversations that are not about.
Sure, about her mom, and about her goals. So the first 5 minutes. All right, we'll go there.
Matrix, does anybody have a conversation that, well, none of them were fully drawn characters, so that's out the window. None of
the men were fully drawn characters.
Nobody was a fully drawn character. I did enjoy seeing Carrie-Anne Moss again, though. I know she's been in movies since. Okay, so Bechdel maybe makes it through on Last Night in Soho, has no chance in Matrix because nobody's well drawn. All right, I think we have done our categories. I think it's time for the great question of the day, and we'll go to our guest first, Tye.
What was that, Chen Chen? Oh, she's asking if you could please subscribe and like this video. Thank you.
Would you rather be caught in the land of the Matrix Resurrection? I guess we'll assume that you're one of, Neo's group, so you're in the Matrix and you're fighting old French guys and all that sort of stuff. Or, would you rather be in Last Night at Soho?
Even though I don't like the Matrix movie, reality-wise, I would take the Matrix over Last Night in Soho. 60s was very cute, the fashion, everything, just the style. But I would not be able to take that type of reality, the back and forth. That would drive me crazy. So I would take the Matrix. I probably would do the blue pill instead of the red. And just be oblivious to everything in my little pod. That's what I think I would go for.
Stay in your pod. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I hear you. What about you, Caroline?
I take Last Night in Soho. No question. Absolutely. Really? Yes, because I would, at the first sign of an issue, I would be like, okay, Mayhem, here's what's going on. And now I'm going to call my grandmother and I'm going to ask for help. And then I'm going to tell the teacher, who shows a lot of interest in me, that I need help. And there are like 50,000 other people who are supporting this Jojo Rabbit lady. She doesn't talk to her boss. She doesn't talk to her colleague, the boyfriend who's after her, the loving grandma, the mentor teacher. I mean, it's seriously like, how many lifelines do you need? Me, I would have grabbed any of those lifelines and I would have left.
And choked them out.
So I would have had a lovely pink dress and all of that inspiration and none of the killing. So like, I would have been totally fine in that situation.
Go back to Cornwall and work it all out.
Yeah, and open my own line. Be amazing.
Gotcha. All right. I'm with Tye. That last night in Soho World, yikes. I mean, I'm obviously thinking of myself as one of the women, not one of the men. But even the men, like Terrence Stamp, apparently was actually a really great guy. And was a cop, and he gets killed. He gets hit by a car because she thinks he's evil. So it's not good to be any of the guys either. And then you get stabbed or your throat cut or whatever if you're a pig. So yeah. Bad world. I'm going Matrix. I'm fighting with Neo. I'm gonna red pill it. I'm gonna fight with Neo and eat gruel. But that's how I am. All right. Well, we have our answers. Tye and I will go with the Matrix, and Caroline will start her own fashion line in Cornwall and be fine. And last night in Soho. Anything else, Tye, that you'd like to say about these films, or anything that you're doing these days? What are you up to these days?
I'm doing the 28 days of Black characters for Black History Month. Hopefully to get out some more t-shirts on my Etsy that has to do more with like Black comic book characters. And so we'll see from there. Yeah. Check it out.
I will. What are you up to these days, Caroline? I know you're hopping around the United States, and with your husband who's running marathons, and you're going hither, thither, and yon. Are you staying in Florida for a while?
I'm in Florida. We just came back, Tye, from a 3-week, 6,000-mile road trip. We went Jacksonville to Columbus, Ohio, to drop off our kid at college, and then to Sedona, Arizona, and St. George, Utah. It was a lovely, and then back again, lovely trip. So that's what I'm up to. And I'm trying to watch as many SAG screeners as possible. It's always a fun time of year.
Well, Tye, thank you again for joining us on Would You Rather. We look forward to checking out everything on your Instagram page. And I hope you'll come back and see us again sometime again soon.
I would love it. Thank y'all for having me.